Have you ever sat down to study only to find that your mind is everywhere but the page in front of you? One moment you're reading, the next you're thinking about something you saw online, what to eat for dinner, or a memory from years ago. You stare at the book, but it feels like your thoughts are running in every direction. And then, perhaps, a quiet frustration arises. Why can't I just focus? This experience is not unique to you. It is something so many of us share. Whether we're students, working adults, or even monks, the nature of the mind is the same: restless, wandering, curious, and easily pulled away. The Buddha described the untrained mind as a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never staying still for long. But rather than blame the mind, what if we could learn to understand it with gentleness? What if, instead of trying to force focus, we could create the inner conditions for clarity to arise naturally, like still water when the winds have calmed? In this reflection, I invite you to look at focus not as a skill to conquer, but as a quality of heart that can be patiently cultivated. Together, we'll explore how to bring more ease, joy, and presence into the act of studying, not through pressure, but through the quiet wisdom of mindful living. The nature of the wandering mind. If we observe the mind carefully, even for just a few minutes, we begin to notice something quite revealing. It doesn't like to stay in one place. Like a butterfly fluttering from flower to flower, the mind constantly moves. From what happened yesterday to what might happen tomorrow, to the sound of a passing car or the feeling of an itch. It is always in motion, rarely resting in the present moment. This is not a personal failure. It is simply the nature of the untrained mind. The Buddha, with great compassion and clarity, compared the untrained mind to a wild horse or an untamed elephant. Strong, energetic, but difficult to guide. If left on its own, it will run toward anything that catches its attention, no matter how small or irrelevant. Let us take the example of a student sitting at a desk. They open their book and begin to read, but within a few lines, a thought arises. Did I reply to that message? The student picks up the phone, and 10 minutes later, they're watching a video far from the lesson they intended to study. This too is the nature of the mind. Not evil, not broken, just untrained. To fight the mind or scold it only brings more tension. But when we begin to understand and accept its wandering as part of its nature, something shifts. We stop blaming ourselves. We become more compassionate, more patient. And from that place, true training can begin. Training the mind does not mean forcing it to behave. It means gently guiding it back, again and again, like leading a child by the hand. Each time we bring the mind back to the present moment, to the breath, to the words on the page, to the task at hand, we are planting seeds of steadiness and calm. Over time, those seeds grow. The mind that once ran wild begins to stay a little longer. It rests a little more easily. And from this resting, true focus is born, not through force, but through deep understanding. Where joy is, there the mind rests. Think for a moment. When was the last time you were so absorbed in something that you forgot the passing of time? Perhaps it was listening to your favorite piece of music, watching a film that touched your heart, painting, playing, or simply talking with someone you love. In those moments, your attention didn't need to be forced. It flowed naturally. Why? Because you were fully present with something that brought you joy. This reveals a gentle but powerful truth. The mind stays where the heart feels happy. So often we treat studying as a burden, something we must push through in order to get somewhere else. A grade, a job, an expectation. When the mind feels this pressure, it resists, it pulls away, searching for relief. But if we can learn to see study not just as duty, but as an opportunity, then something softens inside us. Imagine a young monk sweeping the monastery grounds. He could see it as a chore, a task to complete as quickly as possible. But instead he approaches it as a quiet moment to care for the place that shelters him. Each stroke of the broom becomes a meditation, a way of showing gratitude. In the same way, studying can become an act of appreciation, a way of nurturing the mind, of honoring the opportunity to learn. To bring joy into learning does not mean pretending to love every subject. It means finding a gentle curiosity, even in the most difficult topics. Asking, "What can I discover here?" Or, "How does this help me understand the world a little better?" This attitude opens the heart, and where the heart opens, the mind follows. We can also connect the effort of learning to something greater than ourselves. Studying becomes not just about passing exams, but about gaining the knowledge that may one day help others, serve our communities, or bring clarity in a time of confusion. When learning is rooted in compassion and purpose, it becomes lighter, more meaningful, and the mind, sensing that meaning, begins to rest more easily. Sometimes a small ritual helps. Lighting a candle before studying, taking a deep breath, saying silently, "May this learning benefit all beings." These simple gestures can transform study from obligation into devotion. The path to focus, then, does not begin with struggle. It begins with joy. Just as a bird settles gently on a branch it trusts, the mind settles where it feels safe and inspired. So let us nourish that joy, water it with patience and care, and allow our focus to grow from the inside out. The strength of small steps. In a world that celebrates speed and instant success, we often forget the quiet strength of patience. We expect ourselves to focus perfectly, to finish tasks quickly, to master subjects in a few hours. And when the mind slips, as it naturally does, we feel disappointed, even discouraged. But the path of training the mind is not a race. It is more like planting a seed and watching it grow. Imagine a farmer standing in his field. He places seeds gently into the soil and waters them with care. He knows they will not sprout overnight. He does not dig them up every morning to check their progress. He simply trusts the process, knowing that each small effort adds up. In the same way, every moment you bring your attention back to the task, even for a few seconds, is a seed of focus being planted. Sometimes you may study for just 10 minutes with full presence, and then the mind drifts. That is okay. Even 10 minutes of true attention is something precious. You are building inner strength, quietly, steadily. Often we overlook small victories. We ignore the fact that today we focused a little longer than yesterday, or that we were able to study without checking the phone for a short while. But these are the signs of growth. To recognize and appreciate them is not pride. It is a form of wise encouragement. You can say gently to yourself, "I was with my breath for 1 minute. I read a page with full attention. That is enough for today." In that acceptance, the heart relaxes. And from a relaxed heart, deeper focus will come. Progress in practice, whether it is study or meditation, is rarely sudden. It is like filling a jar with drops of water. One drop may seem like nothing, but if you keep going, one day the jar is full. So let us honor the small steps, the short moments of clarity, the tiny returns to presence, the quiet efforts no one else sees. These are not signs of weakness. They are the beginnings of a strong and steady mind. Letting go of distractions with compassion. When we struggle to focus, it's easy to point the finger at distractions, the buzzing phone, the constant messages, the tempting videos just one click away. And indeed, these things do play a role. But if we look more deeply, we may find that the true distraction does not lie outside of us, but within the way we relate to those things. Let us not approach distractions with anger or resistance. Let us approach them with understanding. A monk once shared a simple practice. Before he begins studying or writing, he places his phone in another room and lights a small lamp beside his desk. "It is not that the phone is bad," he says, "but I wish to offer my full attention to the present task. I do this not as punishment, but as kindness to myself." This small gesture transforms the act of removing distractions into an expression of care. You can try the same. Not out of guilt, but out of love. Love for your own peace of mind. Love for the clarity that comes when the noise fades. You might put your phone in another room, close your social tabs, or study in a quieter space. Not to cut yourself off from the world, but to offer yourself a short retreat, even just for 20 minutes. It also helps to observe what kinds of distractions arise from within: thoughts, emotions, worries. These too can pull the mind away just as strongly as a notification. When they come, greet them gently, like a kind teacher acknowledging a restless student. "Ah, here you are again, thinking about tomorrow." That's okay. But for now, let's return to this page. If we respond to distraction with frustration, the mind becomes tighter. But if we respond with compassion, the mind softens. And a soft mind is more willing to return, more willing to stay. Sometimes we mistake distractions for the enemy, and we fight them like battles. But in truth, they are like children calling for attention. They want to be noticed, not punished. And when we acknowledge them, thank them, and lovingly let them go, they lose their grip. Reducing distraction, then, is not about creating a strict or joyless environment. It's about creating the conditions in which your natural clarity can emerge. Just as a lotus blooms, not because it forces itself open, but because the mud settles and the sun shines. Your focus blooms when the inner and outer noise gently fades. Let it be an act of loving renunciation, a joyful letting go. Not forever, not rigidly, but just enough to give yourself the gift of presence. That is where true learning begins. Training the mind, like a gentle puppy. The untrained mind is not unlike a little puppy. Playful, curious, full of energy, and often unaware of where it's going. You might tell the puppy to stay, and for a brief moment it does. But then something moves in the corner and off it goes. You don't scold the puppy. You smile, call it back, and try again, and again, and again. This is how we must train the mind, not with harshness, but with gentleness and patience. When you sit down to study, you may find that your mind wants to do anything but stay. You start reading a paragraph, and suddenly you're planning tomorrow's schedule or replaying a conversation from earlier in the day. That's not a failure. It's simply the puppy running off again. What matters most is how you respond. Can you smile inwardly, recognize the distraction, and softly bring the mind back to the task? This repeated returning is the heart of practice. Whether you are meditating or reading a textbook, the process is the same. Notice when the mind has wandered and gently guide it home. No need to judge, no need to hurry. Each time you return, you are building the strength of mindfulness, one small act at a time. Imagine tying a flower garland. Each return of the mind is like adding another blossom. At first, there are only a few, but as you continue, the garland grows, not through force, but through steady, loving attention. Some days the mind will be especially restless. On those days, treat it with even more kindness. Just as a tired child needs a softer voice, a restless mind needs greater gentleness. You might pause, take 3 deep breaths, and remind yourself it's okay. I can begin again. Over time, the puppy begins to stay longer. It learns that being still is safe. The mind, too, learns that it can rest, that it doesn't always need to chase, to cling, to run. And from that resting, deeper concentration arises. Not forced, but freely offered. So let your practice be filled with compassion. Let each return be a moment of care. And trust that, like any loving training, the results will come, quietly, gradually, and beautifully. A moment of stillness before you begin. Before diving into books or notes, before trying to absorb facts or memorize formulas, give yourself a moment to pause, to arrive fully in the present. Often, we rush into study with the body present, but the mind still scattered. In that state, even the simplest task can feel heavy. But just like a musician tunes their instrument before playing, we too can tune the mind, gently, with care. A simple practice can help. Sit comfortably. Let your spine be upright but relaxed. Close your eyes softly if you wish. Bring your attention to the breath, not to control it, but to feel it. Notice the coolness as air enters the nostrils, the warmth as it leaves, in and out. Just that. Perhaps thoughts will come. That is natural. Let them pass like clouds drifting through the sky. Return to the breath. Stay with this for 1 minute, or maybe 2. Just enough to let the mind settle, like dust falling to the ground. Then, when you open your eyes and turn to your studies, you will find a subtle shift. The page seems clearer, the mind steadier. You have returned home to yourself. This small act, a pause before beginning, is not a delay. It is a doorway, a way to bring stillness into movement and peace into learning. A blessing for your path of learning. As you continue your journey of study, may you carry with you not only knowledge, but presence. May you remember that true focus is not found in forcing the mind, but in gently guiding it, again and again, with patience, joy, and compassion. Studying is not separate from the spiritual path. When done with mindfulness, it becomes a form of practice, training the mind to stay, to listen, to open. Each time you choose presence over distraction, you are cultivating the same qualities that lead to wisdom: steadiness, clarity, and loving awareness. So go gently. Rest when you need to. Begin again when the mind wanders, and trust that every small effort matters. Like drops of water filling a jar, your quiet diligence is shaping the heart and sharpening the mind. If this reflection has touched you, I invite you to like the video and share it with someone who may benefit. And if you wish to walk further on this path, exploring how the wisdom of the Buddha can guide our daily lives, you are warmly welcome to subscribe. There are more gentle teachings to come, simple ways to bring peace, clarity, and compassion into everything we do. Until then, may you be well. May your studies be fruitful, and may your heart remain kind and steady on the path.